Now here we have a VW Type 1 single port. I cleaned it up years ago, but now we're gonna take you importing it because this is gonna go to my brother's VW Economy Beetle, the 1972. We're gonna rebuild his engine. Of course, we test fit the ICT manifold that I modified to fit for a Kadrons. Here it is. Yes, sir. Because he might run a Kadron set, but I test fitted my 46mm modified Kadrons here. So, hey, this is gonna be something quite air cooled. And let me take you along with this. Alright, let's get to it right away. We chopped off the tip of the plug. This way it lets us clean the chambers without any obstruction or obtrusion. Okay, now let's go to the chambers. We start with 80 grit, but of course we have to spray lubricant on it. But before we go on, as mentioned earlier, my Facebook account, my personal Facebook account has been hacked, so I have no control yet of the Facebook page of the SRD Motorsports. So for anything, you guys can hit me up on my Instagram. It's here, it's Ralph SRDMS, and I'll entertain any question or any questions that you guys have. We can talk about it there. And of course, I'm trying to put more updates on the page or on Instagram. This way, it's all up to date. Yes, sir. And then we go with the 80 grit for initial shaping and just get all the contours good and consistent. Yes, sir. Okay, now we gotta time lapse this because hey, it's gonna take too long. As you can see, we're shaping it according to how the chambers are, just removing all the ridges and all the unnecessary bumps. And this is the plug side. You see, if you don't clip off the tip of the plug, it's gonna make it hard. Yes, sir. Now we go with the pocket porting on the bowls. Yes, sir. Keep going. And of course, we time lapse just so you guys can see how the progress of the change goes on. Yes, sir. Now onto the exhaust bowls on the other side. And now we invert the head and we do the other side of the bowls. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. And now we go with the port entry. We start working on this here. It's still 80 grit. Yes, sir. And we go with the time lapse, obviously. And you can see we're starting to clean it up. And then we can go to the exhaust now. And still on 80 grit, let's go. You can see it's starting to, get the good shape and good shine to it, the good finish. Of course, we go with the time lapse. And then on this one, we invert the head on the other side and spray it again and continue. Because of course, the exhaust ports are front to back or on either side or on both sides, sorry. All right. There you go. Okay, now let's look at it closer. Now let's unclip the phone, move it closer. Oh yeah, it's starting to get there. It's getting there, but needs more, but it's getting there or quite close. All right. So let me try this again with zoomed in a bit so you can see it closer. You can see it's lubricated well, and now we're making passes and with time lapse. Oh, it's actually quite clear, so it's okay to show it like this. And there you go. Now we clean this up and let's head back to the workbench before we continue. But before that, check this out. These are my spare dual port heads. I got a Clydeberg 4035.5, a bunch of 040s, and a Brazilian casting 311 heads from a Brasilia. Of course, this means you gotta subscribe and hit the like button. This way it helps the video and also so you guys can keep track of all the things that we do, especially because next I'll be porting my 040 heads for my own projects, which is either a 1679 or 2054. We gotta see, or a 1915. So depends on what I feel like building for my own air-cooled Type 1. Now we've cleaned it up. Here it is. Oh, you can see, and we see the exhaust is looking really good. We actually inked it up so we can see if we're going too large or not. So now let's look at it closer. Now here it is with better lighting to show you guys the contours. It's still not yet done. We're still like halfway through, but you can see The shaping is really good now, and the short turn we widen it to help the flow go through the bend. So you can see it's really good, right? You see the short turn? Yes, sir. Now let's go to the exhaust. Here, you see, go closer, and with the lighting now, wait, here, you can see, and the hard part here is just to port it perfectly, perfectly round, sorry. But we got there, and so it's pretty good. And just like in all other imports, if you cut off the guide boss, you might severely shorten valve guide life. At least on a single port in the stock 040s. But when it's the Mexican 043, the aluminum alloy on that is actually quite stronger, that even without the guide boss, it's still stable and lasts really good and takes, lasts a long time with the valve guides. So that's okay, right? So now let's go check this out. Okay, now let's lay the head like as if it's a whole engine or a complete engine. Let's put it on the side here. Okay, well, here's the Empi ICT manifolds. Although it's a 32 millimeter, we welded an extension on top to make it 40 millimeter. This way it's gonna work for Kadrons, and we cut off a flange to match a Kadron. And you can see there's bumps there, but if you look inside, it's smoothly tapered from 40 down to 31 or 32 millimeter on the single port. And you can see I actually scribed the line to match it to 46, but I haven't done that yet. Okay, now let's put this bolt here so that it won't fall off on the other side. All right, and now on to my own Kadrons. Wait, let's put this on the side here so it's more centered on the phone or on the view. Okay, here it is. It's an OG AJ Sims 46 millimeter modified Kadrons. So of course, obviously everyone knows the mains are have ground off numbers, but I have a full set from 115 mains all the way to 210. So tuning this won't be a problem, especially using a wideband. So we'll be all right. This is for me. So this is why I said earlier that if my brother runs Cadrons, we have to get him a set of stock 40 millimeter. And don't worry, we'll have a build series when we start working on my brother's engine, because it's currently a 1300 single port. So we'll use this head of mine and either build a 1600 or 1679cc single port. It all depends on my dad, because my dad has a 1600 Kadron motor. So if he wants to turn it into a 1679, we'll use his piston and cylinders for my brother. Easy. Now let's go back to the porting bench and continue finishing this head off. Let's go. Okay, now here we are. This time we go with the 120 grit, a little bit smoother so that we can get all the contours really textured quite well. Of course, we got a time lapse. As you can see, you can actually see it's getting smoother and smoother and more consistent, right? On this area, actually, this plug side of the chamber, I moved it back a bit. This is just an attempt to actually have the spark plug more centered in the combustion sequence. But of course, without that, you don't have to move that, because there's more risk when you don't know what you're doing. So just clean it up as a stock chamber. That's good. Now onto the bowls or the exhaust, and then of course, obviously the intake bowls. Yes, sir. Now we do the chambers once again, just to get it consistent. You'll see later when we show you a closer view or a video when it's all cleaned up. Yes. Now onto the port exit on the exhaust ports or the exhaust. We gotta get it smoother and really good. And of course, eventually, after all this, we're gonna time lapse. Okay, now there. Yes, sir. It's getting good, right? Yes, spray it again. Okay. Okay, now, because this is done, we gotta wash it up, make sure it's all cleaned up, and then, of course, back to the workbench. Let's go, let's go. Here we are now, all cleaned up, and sorry about the towel. It's still, it's just to make sure it's all dry. Now, of course, we use that so it's not oily hands. And this single port head is going to my kid brother's VW Beetle, his 1972 Beetle. And here's a video about it, and I did it a few years ago, or at least maybe 2 years ago. And you can click, instead of clicking here, sorry, we'll have it in the description below. This is gonna be a good one, because pardon the older video, because I wasn't talking there, but we actually started it up and revved it a bit. So hey, that'll be cool. And also for all you guys in the US, you guys could check out Gary's channel, Jawbreaker. He has a 2054cc motor that's really awesome. His Jawbreaker Beetle, and of course his Baja and Project 60. It's a channel I actually binge watch a lot on. And of course, he might help you guys when you need help. He's in Florida. As I see in his videos, he's also helping his friends balance out a 34 ICT and all the other good stuff. So hey, it's fun to watch all his videos. We'll have a link of his channel in the description below, don't worry. Next up is a fellow named Rich Sidoris. He's been active in all the forums I'm in, like for example the Samba, California Look Lounge, and even the now defunct California Look Forum. When it was still up or it still existed, he was always active there. And he's been around for years, so that means he's doing something right. And you can check his Instagram here. He has all the good stuff, and it's really fun checking out his work. And of course, if you need a place to rebuild, or who can rebuild your engine or your Type 1 or even Type 4, he's the guy to go to. And of course, with all the other stuff and all the good help that you can get, Gary's around. Now let's look at my heads closer. Oh yes sir, now look at that. It's all cleaned up and looking good. You can look at the chamber, it's shaped really well. It's gonna be, performing really good. And you can see the bowl, and actually the whole port is finished and all ready. Now let's move closer and try to use a good light to show you guys the bowl and the insides. Here we are with the light. Okay, now we gotta try to make sure the iPhone focuses better. There, you can see the intake port is really good now, right? On this side, okay, iPhone, focus, please. Come on. Oh, there. Yes, sir. You can see the contours are all really good, and there's no abrupt change or bumps. So this is going to be flowing really good. Let's go back to it again. Here you can see the intake port of the Singleport is really good now. Yes, all this is gonna be a fun 1679 or 1600, and hopefully with a CBperformance cheater cam. This way is gonna be really fun. Now let's go to the port entry here. As you can see, yes sir, the bowl into the throat is blended really well, and of course the rest of the intake port, like from the entry, from the moment it enters from the intake manifold onto the divider, onto each port itself, it's gonna be really good, right? Yes sir. Now let's go to the exhaust. Now let's check it. Oh, would you look at that? You can actually see the texture finish is really good, and that's all 120 grit. Let's go with lighting now, with better light and focus. You see, this is all 120 grit, and just proper lubrication and amount of it. Sorry for the shaky phone or camera. I'm trying to get you guys a view of a moving view or a moving picture, just so you guys can actually see the contours better over just pictures. The pictures will come later, but you can see this exhaust is gonna be flowing really efficient and really good. So partner this with a good extractor, all this is gonna be really good, right? Yes sir. And now let's go back to the intake. Here's the photos of each side. Yes sir. And then the exhaust. And so this is the fun part. I hope we get the CBperformance cheater cam, because when my brother is working in Melbourne right now, so when he's here for vacation, this is gonna be driven really good once we start it. And of course, we'll have my brother take footage or videos of it, so I can share it to you guys here. And of course, next up we'll be porting a 040 head. One it's mine. I'm gonna use it because I plan to build either a 2054cc like Gary, or a 1915cc, because I have a mint condition AS21 case that's already cut for 94 liners. So that's gonna be fun, right? And I'll be using the 46 IDK, and of course we'll have videos of it when I'm done. But for now, you can just click here.